I feel like she killed us both that night. I can't seem to do more than survive. I'm so tired of just surviving. This is a part of an email that I recently received that I want to talk more about, because although this person feels so helpless, so alone, I think that feeling of just trying to survive while we are grieving is something that so many of us can relate to. I think if you're here and you like my videos, if you've watched more of them, you know that you don't want to just survive, that you want more. So in today's video, I am going to share some of what this wonderful person shared with me in his own story, in the hopes of helping him and in hopes of helping you. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Grief Inspired. I'm so glad that you're here. You know, the process of grief is just that. It's a process and it takes time. And I'm here because I want to help. So I want to dive in today to this email that I got from this wonderful man. I don't know him. This was a completely random email. He had stumbled across my videos here. And in all my videos, I tell everyone to reach out to me at GriefInspired@gmail.com. And he decided to do that. And I'm so glad that he did, because his email is really going to hopefully give him some support and help that he needs, but also help so many of you. So his situation, and I have his email here in front of me, so when I'm looking down, that's the reason why. But he started out this email by thanking me for being brave and being brave enough to share my story and my pain. And I'm so grateful that he said that, because being brave and being courageous is one of my most important values. It's the thing that I really value the most. So when I share some today, it is going to come from another place that is very personal, that's very vulnerable for me, with some changes that's going on in my life right now. So remember that with all of this, like all of my videos, they are my opinion. They are from my experience. They are from the sharing and information that I get from other people. So let's dive in. He starts out by saying, I feel so alone and hopeless and helpless in my grief. If you have felt hopeless, helpless, and alone in your grief, I want you to drop a comment below. Just say, hey, it's me, at a minimum, so that he knows that he is not alone in this. Feeling hopeless and helpless is really the first stage of grief, honestly, is going, I don't know how to do this. He says, I've been focused on just trying to survive for, more than a year. And what his story was is that he lost what he calls his person, or who he calls his person. And he says that she took her own life to escape her own pain. And what he said was that he felt like his life ended when her life ended. And he's really been struggling to sort of get back to living. And he's in this place where he doesn't know how to get out of. And how many of us have felt this way? When I said I was going to talk personally about some of my stuff and be brave, I've had some of that happening recently in my own life after the death of my father. And it's really came from out of nowhere. And I started feeling more anxious than I had ever felt. I started feeling more depressed, if that's what it was, than I had ever felt. And it really got to a point that for the first time in a lot of years, felt somewhat uncontrollable, and I was spinning. I continued doing everything I needed to do, but I was really in a place that I needed to figure something out. And so going back to the author of this email, it seems like he's in this same place where he said that he said, after she passed away, I had a complete breakdown. I was off work and barely able to keep myself alive for over a year, right? So this is the part of grief when you're just, you wake up in the morning and you're just trying to get through the day and you're just trying to survive. Usually there's a lot of this surreal feeling, if you know what that is, where you feel like you're walking through your life, but you're not actually in it. I talk about feeling like a zombie, feeling like I wasn't really there, like there's no joy. It just is what is. He did end up trying to go back to work, but that was hard. And, I know that experience as well. And if you know what that experience is, trying to go back to work with maybe an employer who isn't really supportive, they don't really understand the magnitude of grief that somebody's going through, and the magnitude of how this grief impacts us. And it impacts every facet of our life. You can't just compartmentalize your grief and say, okay, I'm going to put my grief aside while I go to work. Although we try to do it. We just don't function on all of our engines when we're grieving. It's something that we need to realize. And it sounds like, he was a highly productive, motivated person before his loss. And to fall into a place where you can't even work and you feel like, he uses the words, he felt disposable. And then things started happening, right? So he had chronic health issues, anxiety, depression, PTSD from what happened with the person that he lost. All of these things started coming up. And he gets to this place where he says, I feel like I don't matter and that I'm no longer a productive member of society and that maybe the world would be better off if he wasn't in it. What he was saying is that this is how he really feels, that when you feel like you're not contributing, when you feel like you're stuck in your grief, when you feel like you can't move forward and you're not doing anything because you don't have the physical or mental energy to do any of these things, it's a hard place to be. And he says, I keep getting knocked down and I'm growing tired of trying and fighting just to survive. I can only feel pain, both physical and emotional. He says he's lost his joy. And, my heart goes out to this person because I know this feeling. I know this feeling all too well. This feeling crept up for me recently too. When you start to question everything and you start to say, what am I doing and why am I here? And it's a hard place to be. And it's a hard place to be when you're just trying to survive. And so, he says he feels so alone. And he said he didn't know why he was reaching out. And I'm so glad, and you know who you are, that you did reach out, because it helps me personally to hear your story and to feel for you, because I can feel for you and I can have empathy for you in your situation, because I know some of those feelings and I felt them myself. That's what empathy is understanding how someone else feels. So when you say you feel so alone, I want you to not feel so alone, because at a minimum, I understand. And I know that there are so many people here who are also watching this video who also understand. So if that is you, please let this person know that he is not alone. So the question is, what do you do? And how do you get out of this rut? And it's a good question. And it's a question that I personally was asking myself only a couple of weeks ago. And, and sometimes it's hard to admit that because life is supposed to be perfect, right? And Instagram perfect, and Facebook perfect, and YouTube perfect. But sometimes life isn't that way. And I once heard someone explaining life, and that life is kind of like a heart rate monitor. And if you look at a heart rate monitor and you know what a heart rate monitor is, it goes up and down, and it goes up and down. And if it's going up and down, then you know you're still alive. And if that heart rate monitor doesn't go up and down anymore, if there aren't the ups and downs of life, well, then it's kind of a flat line. And that's what we don't want. And so the question becomes is, a couple things, right? A couple things to know is, one, this is a period of time that you are going to get through. All of these kind of things are temporary. And sometimes it's hard to see that they're temporary when they last a year or two, or sometimes longer. But having the hope and the faith and the belief that things are going to turn around for you is what you have to hold on to. So fundamentally, just understanding that even if you just hang on, something is going to happen. But the way to make it happen faster, because I think that's what I hear in your email, is like, I'm reaching out because I don't know what to do. But you're reaching out because you have hope and you know that something needs to change. So you've already started because you've started to change by reaching out. So the first thing is to reach out and to find some support. There are local, if you can't afford my grief course, there are local churches that will oftentimes have a local grief support group. You can try that. I know a lot of people have liked Grief Share. That's a faith-based grief support. If you, it's Christian-based. If that's something that you want to check out. But at a minimum, my journal is a place to start. So reach out to me and then go to my journal. This is very inexpensive, and you will find things to help you on a daily basis. And then you need to do things to move yourself forward. So for this particular person that I'm talking to today, the first thing is you have to change what's happening. So you need to get out of this rut, and the way to get out of the rut is to change. My advice and first thing to do is, one, and this is, I'm speaking from experience, change your diet and start exercising, right? So you want to get the crap out of your diet. That would be the place that I would start, personally. And I would start exercising. And when I say get the crap out of your diet, what I mean is anything processed and anything that has sugar in it. It helped me out of my depression. It's turned my life around in a very, very quick period of time. And again, this is new for me. But in terms of how I feel, it's a way to change your physical state. So at a minimum, exercise. Go and change your physical state with exercise. Get your heart rate up, whatever that means. If it's smashing a pillow, that will get your heart rate. If it's running as fast as you can, do it. If it's standing in your living room doing 50 jumping jacks, do it. Change your physical state. And then start putting good food into your body. That is the place to start. And then this person mentioned that he feels like he's not a productive member of society. And this is a man. And so men identify with their job and with their career and what they're doing on a day in and day out basis, right? So find something that you can do, even if it's something way below what you're typically used to, something that you can do, maybe even something physical, right? Go work for one of those big box stores for a short period of time, even just to get yourself started. And that forward momentum is going to help you move. It's movement. It's movement that needs to change. Now, I do as much as I can for free. And that's why I make these videos. That's why I encourage you to send me your questions so that I can answer them, so that you can benefit from them and other people can benefit from them too. Again, the grief journal, if you can afford to get into one of my courses, get into the course, but find support. Do not do this alone. And remember that you can move forward in your grief. You can do this. I promise you that you can. Jump into my Facebook group. If you're not in my Facebook group, there is a GriefInspired, Grief is a Process, I Help Facebook group where you can interact with other people. You can ask questions. If you cannot find support anywhere else in person, at a minimum, use that group, and you will connect with people who are amazing people who are at different phases of their grief journey. There are people who have lost spouses in there. There are people who have lost children in there. There are different types of loss in there, whether it be suicide, whether it be sickness or illness, whether it be something very quick like sepsis, whether it be, a long-term cancer diagnosis. All of these things, this is what happens in our life. And there are so many people who have so much insight and who can pour into you. And that's what I want that Facebook group to be. That's what I want my YouTube videos to be, is a place where you can connect and get support from other people. So please, if you're watching this and if you stuck with me this far into this video, I want to encourage you to drop a comment below. You never know who is going to read it, who is going to get value out of what you personally share, whether you're helping yourself or someone else. The idea is that together we can grieve, and you can do this. Thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to talk to you again in my next video. And as always, grief is a process. I can help.